Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second installment of the Student Government Success Looks Like Me series. Throughout this series, we will be interviewing CU Denver alumni from diverse backgrounds in order to gain an understanding of the unique challenges and experiences that these individuals have faced on their path to success. So I'm your host, Nadia, and we are joined by Emily Irwin today. Emily, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Awesome, Nadia. Thank you so much. My name is Emily Irwin. I am a paralegal. My official job title is firm rockstar at an entertainment and business and intellectual property law firm in Denver called Creative Law Network. I was a music business major at CU Denver and I graduated in 2017.
Cool. So I'd like to know just a little bit more about your identity. So what was your favorite genre of music that you listened to growing up?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I'd say my personal favorites, I listen to a lot of pop and I listen to a lot of musical theater. But I also listen to a lot of classic rock because that's what my parents were listening to. So I just kind of listened to what they did.
Did you have a favorite band that they would play?
I love Fleetwood Mac, huge Fleetwood Mac fan. My father is obsessed is an understatement with the Eagles. So we listen to a lot of them too.
Yeah, I also ended up listening to a lot of the Eagles. Not super sure how that came about. Who means? Well, Success Looks Like Me is really about just identity development and just success in whatever field that you've chosen. Could you tell me more about your most salient identities?
Yeah, I think the one that has guided me the most is identifying as female. That's kind of in this industry. It's kind of a big thing. It's a very male dominated industry, both the entertainment and legal fields. So I think that's the one that's been the most prominent.
How has it been navigating a male dominated field?
It's been very interesting. I'm super lucky in the current job that I'm in. I work with two guys who are fantastic. They're very encouraging and they're very, I get to learn a lot from them. And they definitely help push me forward as a woman in this industry and to help kind of move me on to the next step.
Do you think that the people around you understanding how important your identity is to you helped with them kind of propelling you through just your experience as a successful individual?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, they know how important it is for me to succeed, not only just for myself, but as a woman in this industry and kind of moving on and moving to that next step, as I said. And they've definitely made a point to help me through that.
That's amazing. It's always good to surround yourself with people who understand what your ideals and goals are and where you're coming from. So I guess my next question is, how did your identity shape your academic experience?
It changed, it shaped it a lot. I knew from kind of the beginning, and that was one of the things I was brought up as I started at CU Denver. Thankfully, all of the professors I had were also amazing in that sense, and they helped move me forward. But one of the things that I knew very early on, even in high school going into college, is that it was going to be harder for me in this industry as a woman, and that just unfortunately I would have to prove myself twice as much in order to get anywhere. And I think that helped spur me on, and it gave me a direction, and I knew I wanted to be able to prove myself and show like I'm just as good and I'm better sometimes. And that really helped spur me on to push and to challenge myself. And I think that helped me get to where I am today.
That's awesome. But just sometimes that feels like a lot of pressure. I know that I've heard for a lot of my life, like you have to be twice as good. You have to work twice as hard. How have you felt navigating the pressure of that situation?
I think I am a very stubborn individual. So if anyone ever says, no, you can't do this, or you're not going to be able to do that, my favorite thing to say is watch me.
I love that.
And I'm going to do it.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, we're going to switch gears just a little bit and talk a little more about just success. So we've touched on some of your challenges in the field, being in a male-dominated field. What are other challenges that you face, or what was significant about working in a male-dominated field?
I think navigating communication has been a big thing. It's different, and not just a specific male-dominated field, but this industry. We work with such an array of people, that communications it's not a linear strategy. So we definitely have to change our communication based on who we're working with. We work with anyone from, company CEOs to artists to authors, and the communication with each of them has to be different and unique, so we can provide them with the best assistance. So that has definitely been a challenge that I've been working at the firm for about 2.5 years, and that's been an ongoing challenge.
I love that you said communication is linear, because I think when people think about communication, they kind of assume that they can communicate with everyone in the same way they communicate with the people who are close to them. And so that's a very interesting point. What do you think, what are the cues that go off in your head to let you know that communicating with this person is going to be a little different, and how do you navigate that situation?
I think it's all about making sure that you understand what their needs are, where they're coming from, what kind of background they have. I have a background as an artist. I'm a musician, a singer. So I understand from my personal experience how to navigate communication with artists and creative types. But communicating with someone who isn't necessarily in that kind of realm is very different. And that just comes, I think, from experience. I learned a lot on the job and through past jobs that I've had. And just kind of, understanding the direction, knowing how to respond to someone as they've already responded to you, and just things like that.
Yeah, staying aware of how somebody else is communicating to you, I think, is a great option for, I guess, how to respond. Thank you for bringing that up. That's awesome. And so I wanted to talk maybe a little more about CU, because you talked about you kind of learning on the job. What about your experience at CU Denver helped you prepare for that experience?
I had a fantastic experience at CU Denver, and it really shaped how I handle jobs today. And honestly, because of my connections at CU Denver is kind of how I ended up in this position and how I've gotten most of my music industry jobs. I loved how hands-on the learning experience was, and through Storm's Music Cities class, I was able to meet so many industry professionals, and that really helped me understand how to communicate with them, as I met them as a student before I dealt with them as a colleague. So I already knew that their communication strategies and like all that kind of stuff. And it helped a lot. The professors were great in navigating how to handle industry standards and all of that information. I felt really prepared leaving the university.
Oh, it's really good to hear. That makes me feel better as a student. That you felt really prepared. So we all hear this phrase. It's like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And so, but networking is this really daunting skill. Like it just sounds scary. And like, what does it mean? So you kind of learned about networking in school and practice networking. What has that been like outside of school?
COVID has changed a lot as far as networking. Now it's just a lot of Zoom meetings, but pre-COVID, it was kind of the same thing that I did in school. It's meeting someone that you've never met, kind of striking up a conversation based on similar backgrounds. And in school, it was great because I myself personally wanted to learn so much that, people love to talk about themselves. So
yes.
As long as you can get someone talking about themselves and what they do, it's pretty easy to do that, and making that connection from there on is really helpful. And that school helped me navigate that. And it's kind of the same thing in the professional sense. Now I'm able to bond with and connect with colleagues and other people in the industry over common ground that we both share, that we're currently working on, projects that we're currently doing, things like that. But in school, it was definitely a lot of learning. It was really fun.
Good. Well, I love that you said that it was really fun, because I think we get caught up in meeting deadlines and just trying to stay on top of life as a college student. We kind of forget that part. This can be fun.
I totally understand that. I was definitely that way in college, but it's really important to have fun and really enjoy what you're doing too. Otherwise, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, hopefully I will get there. We're in the middle of midterms. It doesn't quite feel like that yet.
Oh, I get it.
But we talked about networking. What are other skills that you learned at CU Denver that were useful in your field?
I think a lot of the big thing that I took from CU Denver were the big thing I took were the little things, the nuances of the industry that made getting a music business degree different than getting a regular business degree. The little nuances of how the industry works, and you're working with people, your professors are people who have worked in the industry before, and they're well-versed in how to handle that and all of the terminology, and learning the little nuances of, specific royalties, like what it is changing, but kind of the things kind of like what Spotify charges and royalties, knowing those little differences, or what Spotify pays in royalties, excuse me, knowing those little differences has been really helpful.
Well, you've talked a lot about your professors and your experience with your professors. I know for me, it took a long time to feel comfortable in going outside of the classroom and speaking and working with my professors.
Mm-hmm.
What was your experience at CU Denver working with professors outside of the classroom?
It also took me some time. I was a transfer student, so I think I had gotten all of my nerves of talking and working with professors out of the way before I came to CU Denver. And I came from a program that was very kind of more strict, where we would call our professors, Mr., Mrs., and Doctor, and we never used their first names. We never really had that kind of camaraderie with our teachers as we do at CU Denver. So the fact that our teachers were so available and open to communication in and outside of the classroom was really refreshing. And I think once I worked up the courage to start utilizing those connections, it was very helpful, and it definitely helped push me forward in the industry.
I hope that the students listening really hear the message that you had, which was just put yourself out there, especially with your professors, because they're there to help you. And I think that's a really strong message. But I wanted to talk a little more just about your successes in general. So take a step back, and what has been a major success since graduation? What's something that you're like, I did that?
Right after I graduated from CU Denver, I moved to Ireland, and I got a master's degree. So I think that has been one of the things that I've been most proud of since graduation, and that was a fantastic experience.
What was it like moving not only away from family and friends, but outside of the country?
I loved it. I had previously studied abroad in Ireland, so I knew the area really well. But I love exploring new places and meeting new people and getting to learn on a whole different level. One, internationally, and two, as a master's program was incredible. And it definitely, my experience at CU Denver definitely helped shape how I handle things during my master's program. But I loved every second of it. It was a blast.
Ireland just sounds beautiful. And getting to live somewhere else and study, it's a dream, honestly. What at CU Denver kind of prepared you for that move and that transition, not just from different countries, but from undergrad to graduate school?
The communication aspect that I learned, I went, as I said, from the more strict program in my undergrad, transferring to CU Denver, and then kind of going back to that program, going back to a more regimented, still fantastic and wonderfully creative, but definitely a more structured, harshly structured program in my master's. And I think bringing the unique, creative, and more open communication strategy skills that I learned to my master's degree really helped how I handled things up there. And yeah.
Very cool. Well, I really appreciate you joining us. We're actually, unfortunately, running out of time. So I wanted to transition to the last part of Success Looks Like Me, which is just what does success mean to you, and what does that look like?
I think success is relative. It's different for everyone, and it doesn't necessarily, success can be ongoing. I feel like, to me, success is more mile markers. If I hit the things that I want to hit, then I have been successful. There's no point where I've hit that, personally, where I think I've hit that ultimate success. I think it's ongoing, and I strive to always move towards what's the next thing. I've hit this one success for me. Now what can I do? And let's move on to the next thing. And it's emotional and kind of strategic successes are very different. So you've hit milestones emotionally, you've dealt with some big changes and you've handled them well, or you've handled them in a certain way that could be successful, or you've hit certain things in your career or your academic level. Graduating is a huge success. But yeah, I think success is also not linear. I love that phrase, and different for everyone, but that's how I think it is for me.
I like that you said that success is not linear, because I definitely feel like there's this idea of a path that you have to take. And I also appreciate that you said that it was something that's more individual and kind of about goal making and just like striving for what's next. So what, if you could say there's one thing that's like pushes you to get to that next goal and meet that next mile marker, what is it?
I think loving what I do is kind of the next thing that pushes me forward, or the thing that pushes me forward. And my dad has always said my whole life, there are two types of jobs. There are have to do jobs and there are get to do jobs. And they are what you make them. If you wake up in the morning and you have to go to work and you really don't love what you're doing, or you don't love where you are, it makes life really hard and it makes you feel really unsuccessful. But if you wake up in the morning, and it's all about viewpoint, you wake up and you get to go to work and you get to do the things you love, or you get to be near people that you love, or things that you have a lot of fun with, that's success in itself to me, is that I've hit that point where I really love what I'm doing.
That's beautiful. It sounds like it's also really about mindset. What, I apologize, I lost a train of thought.
It's fine.
What is it about your job that when you wake up in the morning, you're like, this is what success looks like because I get to do this?
This is not the area of the music industry that I saw myself in when I was in school. I was really interested in it, but I didn't think this is where I was going to end up. But I really found that I love helping people protect their dreams. I work a lot in intellectual property protection and helping people register a trademark or things like that, or helping people kind of see their dreams come to fruition has been really rewarding. And I really, really enjoy working with all of our clients.
Perfect. Well, I love that you get to see people's dreams become reality every day. That's beautiful. Well, that is all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who's been listening. Tune in for the next installment.
Awesome.